If nothing has worked for you until now, this message is not meant to shame you or question your effort. It is meant to explain what effort alone could never resolve. Because most failure is not born from laziness or lack of intelligence, but from one missing alignment that quietly cancels everything else. You have tried sincerely. You have studied, planned, adjusted, and acted. For brief moments, hope returned and progress seemed possible. Then momentum slowed, results stalled, and confusion set in. You were left wondering why others advance while your path keeps looping back on itself. This confusion becomes dangerous over time. When honest effort produces nothing, belief begins to erode. You start doubting your instincts, your judgment, and eventually your worth. The problem is not the struggle itself, but the silent conclusion that maybe success is not meant for you. Here is what most people never discover. Results do not come from effort alone. Effort without alignment is like turning a key in the wrong lock. The motion is real, the intention is sincere, but the door never opens, no matter how long you keep pushing. You may recognize this pattern clearly now. A new strategy excites you. A fresh routine promises change. You commit, work hard, and wait. When nothing changes, you blame timing, circumstances, or luck, never realizing the true cause was present from the beginning. Nothing has worked because one law was missing. Not a technique, not motivation, not discipline. A governing principle that determines whether effort multiplies or evaporates. When this law is absent, every other action loses its force. This is why intelligent people fail so often. They understand many ideas but obey none completely. They mix belief with doubt, desire with hesitation, action with retreat. The result is inconsistency, and inconsistency always produces weak outcomes. You were not failing because you lacked knowledge. You were failing because your actions were never anchored to a single governing principle. Without that anchor, effort drifts. And drift always leads back to the same starting point. You can feel this truth if you're honest. Think of how many times confidence faded once resistance appeared. How motivation disappeared when results delayed. That loss of certainty was not random. It was the signal that something essential was missing. Most people prefer complex explanations because complexity hides responsibility. If success is complicated, failure feels excusable. But when the truth is simple, avoidance becomes obvious. And simplicity demands a level of discipline most people resist. The missing law does not announce itself loudly. It works quietly and without exception. It does not promise instant miracles. It demands alignment, repetition, and decision. That is why it is ignored, even by those who desperately need it. This law governs all achievement. Without it, desire weakens, plans collapse, and persistence fades. With it, effort compounds, belief stabilizes, and results accelerate. It is the difference between wishing for change and commanding it. You have encountered it before, even if briefly. Moments when doubt disappeared and action felt natural, when hesitation vanished and clarity took over. Those moments were not accidents. They were glimpses of alignment, but alignment was never sustained. Old habits returned, decisions softened, focus fractured, and when certainty weakened, the law withdrew its power. The results faded, not because the law failed, but because obedience ended it. This is why nothing has worked until now, not because you were incapable, but because you were incomplete. You applied effort without finality, desire without decision, action without permanence. Decision is not preference, it is finality. It is the moment the mind stops negotiating. Until that moment arrives, every plan remains fragile. The world responds only after certainty is fixed and reinforced through repetition. Most people believe they have decided. In truth, they hesitate with enthusiasm. They commit while keeping escape routes open. The subconscious recognizes this instantly and mirrors indecision with weak results. The missing law demands something uncomfortable. It requires choosing without proof, acting without reassurance, and persisting without visible reward. That is why it separates those who advance from those who remain hopeful. You may feel resistance as you read this. That resistance is the habit of drift protecting itself. Drift resists clarity because clarity removes excuses. Once the law is understood, ignorance is no longer available as shelter. When this law is applied, something shifts. Thoughts stop contradicting each other. Actions reinforce belief instead of weakening it. Repetition replaces motivation. Identity replaces effort. The world responds differently to a decided mind. Opportunities appear where none existed. Support arrives unexpectedly. Obstacles lose their power. To others, it looks like luck. To the aligned, it feels inevitable. And you were missing this law, and because of that, everything else failed consistently enough to convince you something was wrong with you. Nothing was wrong with you. What was missing was alignment. This law cannot be applied casually. It must be obeyed daily, repeated until it becomes identity. Only then does action feel natural and results become predictable. Most people will hear this and move on. They will agree, feel inspired, and return to old habits. The law will do nothing for them. Laws do not respond to agreement. They respond to obedience. If you listen differently, something changes. If you listen as though your future depends on application, the law begins to work immediately. Quietly at first, then unmistakably. This is the explanation you were missing. The past now makes sense. The failures align. The confusion dissolves. What remains is a choice. You can continue applying effort without law, or you can align with the one principle that makes all others effective. This is why nothing has worked until now, and why everything can change from here. The invisible law of alignment. I have studied the reasons men rise and the reasons they remain bound, and I have found that the difference between the two is seldom effort. Most men labor faithfully. They rise early, work long, and speak earnestly of ambition. Yet their progress remains slow, their results uncertain, and their confidence fragile. Their labor is divided. They work with their hands while their minds argue against them. There exists a law as certain as gravity, yet less understood. I call it the law of alignment. It governs the relationship between thought, belief, and action. When these three move in harmony, the result is inevitable. When they conflict, no amount of exertion can prevail. Men fail not because they cannot, but because they do not act as one whole being. Alignment is moral, mental, and emotional harmony directed toward one fixed purpose. It is the union of the invisible and the visible, of will and deed. When thought declares one thing and the emotions obey that declaration, action becomes unstoppable. This is not mysticism. It is mechanics of mind applied to circumstance. Contradiction within the mind weakens every plan. A man may design the finest strategy, yet if his thought contains uncertainty, that uncertainty seeps into every act. The subconscious, which builds circumstances from thought, cannot create stability from contradiction. It reflects the divided command it receives. Belief and desire must never pull in opposite directions. Desire cries, "I want," while doubt whispers, "I cannot." These two forces fight in secret until the man feels exhausted without understanding why. He blames external resistance, unaware that the battlefield lies within his own mind. The stronger voice always wins, and the stronger voice is the one most often repeated. Indecision is invisible, yet it ruins more fortunes than failure. A plan delayed is a plan denied. Each hesitation breaks rhythm and dissipates force. Opportunity obeys momentum. It avoids hesitation. The man who stops to reconsider every step never gains speed. Thought becomes command only when it ceases to compete with its opposite. The law is impartial. It serves the man who thinks clearly as faithfully as it serves the man who doubts clearly. Both receive the reflection of their dominant belief. The universe does not distinguish between courage and fear. It magnifies whatever is sustained. Alignment clarifies duty. When purpose is definite, confusion disappears. Decisions once difficult become natural. The man no longer asks, "Should I?" He knows. His energy no longer leaks into debate. What was once effort becomes rhythm. Alignment gives direction. Without it, plans scatter like leaves in the wind. With it, even modest resources combine into force. One decided thought is more powerful than 1,000 wandering wishes. A single current, once established, gathers strength as it moves. Alignment brings discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It is loyalty to one cause. It is the refusal to divide attention between what serves and what distracts. The aligned man protects his direction as a guardian protects a flame from the wind. Faith cannot coexist with constant reconsideration. Faith begins where negotiation ends. Each time a man reopens a settled decision, he drains power from it. The subconscious interprets reconsideration as disbelief. It withdraws cooperation. Certainty must be final before the law can act. Look to Henry Ford. When every engineer insisted the V8 engine was impossible, he refused to alter the command. He said, "Build it." For months they argued. For months he repeated the same order. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He simply refused to divide his decision. The engine appeared because the law must yield to consistency. Observe Thomas Edison. 10,000 attempts failed to produce the light he sought, yet his desire never argued with his belief. He never said, "Perhaps it cannot be done." His thought, feeling, and action were one. That unity converted defeat into progress and progress into triumph. Consider Andrew Carnegie. He possessed no extraordinary talent, yet he mastered the single power of channeling himself wholly into one purpose. His alignment gathered men, money, and momentum. His certainty attracted those who sought direction. His wealth was not an accident of industry, but a reflection of mental order. Alignment is not noise, it is quiet strength. The man who lives it appears calm while others rush. His decisions are quiet but final. He no longer explains. He no longer persuades. He acts as one who has already chosen. Others call him fortunate, but they do not see the discipline beneath his peace. They feel the weight of his certainty and mistake it for arrogance. In truth, it is authority born of obedience to one law. To the aligned man, delay is not discouragement. Delay is the universe organizing response. Resistance does not frighten him. Resistance is confirmation that he has declared something new. He remains steady while others quit. My desire, belief, and action move in one direction. I do not divide myself between hope and fear. Faith, as I speak of it, is not emotion. It is alignment. It is the steady conviction that law responds to order, not to plea. Decision, as I define it, is final obedience. Once chosen, it becomes rule. Persistence is loyalty to that rule until outcome bows before it. The law of alignment is moral gravity. Just as a stone must fall to the earth, results must fall to the man who maintains unity within himself. The universe cannot resist a decided mind any more than the earth can refuse the pull of its own center. Alignment frees a man from struggle. He no longer fights circumstance, he directs it. His thought commands because his will no longer contradicts. He becomes cause, not effect. Every man is surrounded by the conditions he has built inwardly. Confusion outside reveals division inside. Order outside reveals alignment within. A man's world is his reflection in motion. Those who drift change methods endlessly, believing a new system will succeed where the last failed. They never realize that methods change nothing until the man himself becomes whole. The alignment I speak of cannot be borrowed. It cannot be inherited. It must be created daily through conscious discipline. Each morning the man must renew his loyalty to his decision. Each night he must measure himself against it. When this habit forms, doubt loses its voice. The mind becomes single. Emotion becomes servant. Action becomes expression. Life begins to mirror the new order faithfully. Others see the change first. They notice his steadiness. They feel his quiet authority. They cannot explain it, but they respect it. The undecided instinctively yield to the decided. Alignment transforms struggle into certainty. It does not remove difficulty, but it removes confusion. Difficulty can be overcome. Confusion cannot. This law is simple, but simplicity frightens men because it removes their excuses. Complexity allows them to delay. Simplicity demands decision. To live by this law is to stand alone for a season. Few understand the peace of a man who no longer argues with himself, yet soon they come to him for direction, drawn by the calm they once mocked. The world always yields to moral gravity. When a man's inner world becomes organized, his outer world arranges itself accordingly. He begins to attract opportunity not by chance, but by symmetry. The law never fails. It is the man who fails to align. He allows fear to suggest alternatives, emotion to distort judgment, impatience to interrupt process. Every retreat restarts the climb. The remedy is singular. Unite your forces. Choose one aim. Bind thought, belief, and action to it. Speak it, write it, obey it. Let nothing separate you from it. In time, all that opposes it will bend or vanish. When alignment is complete, results accelerate as though time itself has joined your cause. You seem to move faster, yet you are merely unhindered. Energy once wasted in contradiction becomes available for creation. The man who aligns becomes magnetic. His presence carries direction. Others feel safety near him. They trust him without reason because his steadiness comforts their chaos. To live by this law is to step beyond chance. Success ceases to be uncertain. It becomes inevitable, governed by order instead of luck. I tell you now, the law is waiting to serve you as it has served every man of accomplishment before you. It will not discriminate. It will obey whoever obeys it. Decide once, align wholly, and remain loyal to that decision until the world adjusts. This is the invisible law of alignment, the current behind every enduring success, the bridge between faith and result, the cause behind every miracle mistaken for luck. The enemy of the law, dual thought and divided desire. Men speak often of struggle as though it were noble, but most struggle is not against the world at all. It is against themselves. They wrestle with their own divided minds, torn between faith and doubt, purpose and fear. No man can march in two directions and expect to arrive anywhere. When the inner world is divided, effort cancels itself. The greatest enemy of the law of alignment is dual thought. It is the invisible fracture that weakens every plan, the hidden contradiction that steals the strength from honest labor. A man may believe he wants success, yet secretly expect defeat. He says, "I will win," but inwardly asks, "What if I fail?" The two voices pull against each other, and the result is paralysis disguised as prudence. The mind cannot serve two masters, faith and doubt. It obeys the one that speaks more often. Each thought repeated becomes command. The subconscious cannot tell truth from falsehood. It knows only repetition. If you repeat fear more than faith, fear becomes law. The result always reveals which master was obeyed. Hesitation breeds invisible resistance in all effort. Each time a man stops to question a decided course, he interrupts the rhythm upon which success depends. Rhythm is the secret of all growth. Nature never halts to reconsider the seed it planted. The sun rises because it must, not because it debates its duty. Man alone argues with his own command and then wonders why results delay. Indecision drains willpower silently. It is not the weight of work that exhausts most men. It is the weight of uncertainty. A single definite aim releases energy, but a dozen half-beliefs divide it until even small tasks feel heavy. The man who cannot decide dissipates his own vitality with every argument he entertains. Drift disguises itself as open-mindedness. It whispers, "Be cautious, keep your options open, do not commit too soon." But opportunity despises indecision. It will not wait for the hesitant. The man who drifts never arrives. He sails endlessly in circles, mistaking movement for exploration, variety for progress, and caution for wisdom. Self-argument delays progress more than failure ever could. Failure teaches. Hesitation teaches nothing. Each moment spent debating whether to act is a moment stolen from execution. The man who fails learns what to adjust. The man who hesitates learns only that he cannot trust himself. The moral weight of unfinished decisions presses on the soul. A man who continually promises himself change but never completes it begins to lose faith in his own word. Each broken promise carves doubt into character. Eventually, he stops believing his own declarations, and the subconscious obeys the disbelief instead of the command. Success requires emotional loyalty to one outcome. It is not enough to think clearly or plan intelligently. The heart must be faithful to the purpose chosen. Emotion is the fuel of persistence. If the heart is divided, endurance fades. The man who half believes cannot last. I once watched a worker of fine talent change trades 3 times in as many years. Each time he began anew with enthusiasm. Each time difficulty arose, and he convinced himself his gifts belonged elsewhere. His failure was not incompetence, but divided intent. The law does not yield to curiosity, it yields to loyalty. Another man, a salesman, alternated daily between confidence and fear. One day he approached clients with assurance, and they responded favorably. The next day, doubt ruled him, and his words lost force. His customers felt his uncertainty before he spoke. Confidence attracts, fear repels. His income reflected whichever emotion had been repeated most recently. I recall also a writer who rewrote the first chapter of his book for years. He claimed perfection was his goal, but his perfectionism was a disguise for indecision. He feared completion because completion invites judgment. His half-written work became a monument to hesitation. The man who conquers dual thought finds peace that others mistake for arrogance. His calmness irritates the restless because it exposes their turbulence. His certainty quiets the talkers, for they cannot argue with results. His focus makes him appear unshakable, though his strength is simply the absence of contradiction. When faith and doubt cease to struggle, energy once wasted on inner conflict becomes available for creation. The same hours produce more because the mind no longer works against itself. Alignment doubles power by removing friction. I have observed that men who master this law act as though guided by unseen force. Their timing improves. Circumstances seem to arrange themselves. To outsiders, it looks like luck. In truth, it is the reward of mental loyalty sustained beyond emotion. My mind is singular. I choose once and obey forever. I do not reconsider what I have already decided. I trade the comfort of variety for the power of unity. Faith, in its truest sense, is mental loyalty. It is not mere belief. It is fidelity to decision. To believe one thing while preparing for another is disloyalty of the mind. Law does not bless the traitor thought. It blesses the loyal one that refuses to serve 2 kings. Decision itself is moral commitment made visible. A man who decides completely ends moral conflict. Until that moment, he is at war within. Each postponed choice prolongs weakness. When the choice is made and never reopened, strength rushes in to fill the vacuum. Let me speak plainly. The world respects finality. It distrusts the tentative. Men follow those who act without apology. They sense power in the absence of hesitation. Power does not consult opinion. It consults law. Every act of faith is an act of final obedience. It is saying, "This is the way," and then closing all other roads. Those who keep their roads open never arrive. A journey requires departure, and departure demands that the bridge behind be burned. Dual thought is comfort disguised as caution. It keeps a man safe from failure by keeping him small. He avoids defeat only by avoiding victory. The world never punishes indecision because indecision punishes itself. Once a young man approached me claiming to have tried everything. He had changed trades, partners, cities, and plans. Each attempt ended where it began. I told him, "You have done many things halfway and nothing wholly. Choose one cause and give it undivided obedience." A year later, he returned transformed. His results were not magic. They were aligned. Men call such transformation miraculous because they cannot see the process. But I assure you, the moment loyalty replaces confusion, events begin to obey. Opportunity appears, resistance weakens, and time itself seems to shorten. The mind that has chosen cannot be distracted by criticism. It no longer seeks reassurance. It no longer listens to voices that once caused doubt. It moves forward as naturally as breath. This is the state of authority that all men secretly desire. The decided man is not inflexible. He can change method, but never purpose. Method is the tool. Purpose is the master. To confuse them is to lose both. Dual desire is the seed of contradiction. A man who wishes for freedom yet fears responsibility will find neither. A man who wants success but loves ease will have comfort and envy, never power. Every gain demands its price in concentration. The moment desire and belief unite, the world rearranges itself. The moment they separate, the world grows hostile again. Alignment is heaven on earth. Division is personal purgatory. Look carefully at any enduring success, and you will see unity beneath it. Look closely at failure, and you will find division. The evidence is universal. Those who live by the law of alignment are not many. They are the few who have chosen to end inner debate. Their serenity is mistaken for luck, but it is only peace earned through obedience. The untrained mind wants to think many things. The trained mind thinks one thing thoroughly until it becomes reality. I have seen empires fall because their leaders began to serve two ideas instead of one. I have seen humble men rise to greatness because they remained loyal to one cause through ridicule, drought, and delay. The man who once divided himself finds joy in unity. His energy returns. His confidence strengthens. He begins to trust himself again. That self-trust is faith restored, and faith restored is power renewed. When he speaks, his words carry force. When he acts, his timing feels perfect. Others wonder how he knows what to do, yet he is merely obeying his own law without conflict. The peace that comes from unity cannot be bought, taught, or borrowed. It must be earned by giving up the habit of reconsideration. The man who conquers dual thought has found freedom. He no longer needs constant encouragement because his cause is settled. Decision becomes his foundation, and upon it, he can build anything. This is why I teach alignment first and strategy second. Strategy is wasted on the undecided. When a man is whole within, every method becomes effective. When he is divided, even the best method fails. To end the battle within is to win every battle without. When thought, belief, and action form a single current, the law of life hastens to assist. The undecided are left behind, still discussing the next step, while the aligned have already arrived. The secret of power is unity. Unity of mind, unity of feeling, unity of will. This is the eternal answer to divided desire, the only cure for failure repeated through years of good intention. And I tell you plainly, once unity is achieved, it must be guarded. The enemy will return in subtle forms, fear disguised as wisdom, doubt disguised as caution, drift disguised as rest. Recognize them for what they are and remain whole. The mind that obeys itself commands the world. The man who conquers contradiction becomes irresistible. The activation of the law, inner obedience and outer command. There comes a moment when understanding must give birth to discipline, when the mind must stop admiring truth and begin obeying it. Knowledge alone is a fine servant, but it is obedience that becomes master. The law of alignment does not move for thinkers, it moves for doers whose thoughts have become laws within themselves. The great error of most men is that they confuse knowing with applying. They imagine that insight itself possesses power, but power lies not in knowing what to do, but in doing what one already knows. The bridge between understanding and result is repetition. Repetition converts idea into identity. A man may read the same truth 100 times, but until he repeats it to himself with faith and acts upon it daily, it remains nothing but print. The subconscious mind accepts no wisdom until it has been spoken often enough to seem real. The mind is a soil. It grows only what is planted repeatedly and tended with feeling. The subconscious accepts only certainty. It cannot interpret hesitation. It waits for command, not suggestion. When a man declares his aim once and then contradicts it with doubt, the silent servant grows confused. When he repeats his aim daily with calm conviction, it begins to build structure beneath his will. There is a vast difference between trying and obeying. Trying implies possible retreat. Obeying implies finality. The man who tries tells his mind, I may. The man who obeys says, I must. The law answers, must. The world reshapes itself around finality because the mind that no longer negotiates becomes immovable. Verbal loyalty must match emotional conviction. It is not enough to speak words. One must feel them as though already accomplished. The emotion behind repetition gives life to the command. The words are the vessel, but feeling is the current that carries it to the subconscious. For this reason, ritual is sacred. Morning declaration renews direction before the noise of the world can intrude. Evening reflection restores clarity after the day's distractions. To write one's purpose each dawn and speak it aloud is not superstition. It is engineering. You are programming the silent servant that never sleeps. Routine transforms decision into habit, and habit into destiny. Every act repeated with faith deepens the channel through which energy flows. Soon, the man finds that obedience no longer requires effort. What was once discipline becomes nature. What was once intention becomes identity. Consistency is moral force in motion. The universe trusts a steady man. When he rises at the same hour, speaks the same aim, performs the same tasks, he emits order, and order attracts support. Chaos avoids him because it cannot attach itself to rhythm. Charles M. Schwab repeated his vision of steel mastery so often that his confidence became contagious. Men who doubted their own ability borrowed faith from his. He commanded industries not with aggression, but with alignment. His clarity was law in motion. I recall a clerk of small means who once came to me uncertain of his future. I told him, write your definite chief aim each morning and read it aloud until it becomes as real to you as your own name. He obeyed. Years later, he became a partner in the same firm that had overlooked him. The law had rewarded his obedience, not his education. Edison again provides perfect proof. 10,000 failures did not move him because he did not measure progress by immediate result. Each attempt was an act of loyalty to the one law he served, completion. His 1,000th trial held the same faith as his first because obedience had become identity. The man who practices this activation stops arguing. He no longer defends his dream. He declares it. Arguments weaken command. Declaration strengthens it. His voice becomes quiet, firm, and unquestioned. His aim no longer changes with emotion. He repeats his aim even when unobserved, for repetition spoken privately has greater force than praise spoken publicly. He speaks his vision into the unseen until the unseen begins to arrange itself in his favor. He is at peace while others hurry. His calm in delay unsettles those addicted to rush. Delay to him is not punishment. It is preparation. The law requires time only to arrange means for manifestation. The impatient interfere with their own building. His results appear suddenly, though they were built slowly. The world sees the bloom and calls it luck, but he knows it is the harvest of daily obedience. I obey the law daily, not occasionally. My repetition creates identity. I am faithful to my aim beyond feeling. My words instruct my world. Repetition is the hammer that forges faith. Each blow seems small, yet over time it shapes belief into structure. The untrained man calls repetition tedious. The disciplined man calls it divine rhythm. I call this rhythm the mental hammering of purpose into permanence. Each statement spoken, each act performed, is a strike upon the same anvil. In time, the formless metal of thought becomes the sharp edge of certainty. Some call it monotony. I call it mastery. Nothing enduring is built without it. Nature herself repeats the same processes endlessly. The seasons, the tides, the turning of the sun, until perfection is maintained by repetition. Shall man, born of the same order, expect success through irregularity? The subconscious, the silent servant, never rests. It waits for command even as you sleep. If you fail to give it direction, it obeys the last instruction received, usually fear. The man who speaks doubt at night wakes to obstacles of his own creation. The man who speaks purpose wakes to assistance disguised as coincidence. I have met men who spoke of being lucky. Luck is the name given by the untrained to disciplined alignment. Nothing obeys chance. Everything obeys law. Obedience must extend beyond words to conduct. Each act, even the smallest, must reflect the larger purpose. Every habit either reinforces or resists alignment. To obey inwardly while contradicting outwardly divides power again. When repetition is perfect, identity becomes unshakable. The man no longer wonders who he is or what he must do. He acts from definition, not deliberation. That is mastery of the self, the only mastery worth pursuing. There will be days when repetition feels hollow. These are the most important days. The law observes endurance, not emotion. The man who repeats when belief trembles proves his faith and strengthens it. To stop repeating when enthusiasm fades is to surrender the seed before it sprouts. The farmer who plants one day and digs up the field the next to check progress will never harvest. So it is with thought. Discipline is not rigid, it is creative. Through repetition, new insight arises, and obstacles reveal their pattern. Routine reveals genius the way a steady chisel reveals form within marble. Great art, great success, and great faith are all repetition refined. When a man has lived by daily decree long enough, his words begin to carry unseen weight. Others feel his conviction before he speaks. His presence communicates order. Those around him instinctively adjust to his rhythm. A master commands without force. His very alignment issues instruction. Men cooperate not out of fear, but because his certainty provides safety. They sense that following his direction protects them from the chaos that torments the undecided. Once the mind is trained to obey its own law, outer conditions mirror that law. People, events, and opportunities begin to fall into rhythm. The world organizes itself around your certainty. Do not confuse this with arrogance. True authority is humble, for it knows the price paid in daily repetition. It is quiet power, not loud display. When you obey the law within, you become the law without. You cease chasing results. Results begin chasing you. Alignment must become a way of life. Each word spoken, each habit maintained, each thought entertained must reinforce the same central command. This is who I am, this is what I will do, and I will not depart until it is done. The man who achieves this level of order finds that fear dissolves. Fear cannot enter a mind already occupied by instruction. Worry is replaced by work. Doubt is replaced by duty. Nothing in the universe resists a steady vibration. A single note held long enough will make even solid stone tremble. So it is with repetition. Hold one purpose long enough and the world begins to move in sympathy. That is the true power of obedience. It makes the invisible tangible, the intangible visible. Every great accomplishment has passed through this stage of repetition until repetition became law. And law, once awakened, does not rest until its decree is fulfilled. This is the activation of the law, inner obedience transforming into outer command, repetition turning decision into destiny. The evidence of the law: authority, inevitability, and mastery. There comes a time when repetition completes its work. The man who once had to remind himself daily of his purpose now lives it without effort. Decision has hardened into character. Discipline has become instinct. This is the point where the law begins to reveal its evidence, where the invisible obedience within produces visible authority without. Authority is not something one claims, it is something one becomes. It cannot be spoken into existence by pride or posture. It arises naturally when a man has obeyed himself so faithfully that life itself begins to take instruction from him. He no longer seeks control, he embodies it. His calm becomes command. When alignment is perfect, life responds faster, resistance weakens, and results arrive as if carried by unseen hands. The world senses order in him and yields to it. This is not magic, it is law. Just as iron filings arrange themselves around a magnet, so do people and opportunities arrange themselves around the man of decision. The transformation from seeker to commander is gradual. At first, he struggles for consistency. Then consistency becomes habit. Finally, habit becomes law, and the man becomes its instrument. He does not change methods frequently. He refines. He does not rush. He directs. Each action now contains the quiet confidence of inevitability. I have witnessed this in many forms. The businessman who once begged for clients now attracts them. The worker who once sought opportunity now creates it. The man who once needed encouragement now provides it to others. His success appears effortless because his internal order no longer produces friction. Obedience to law creates inevitability, not luck. Those who speak of fortune misunderstand cause and effect. There are no accidents in the life of an aligned man. Every outcome is a mirror of his consistency. Where others see coincidence, he sees consequence. Stillness becomes his strength. He does not need to hurry, for he knows that time is his ally. Every hour spent in alignment compounds result. Noise surrounds him, but it cannot enter. The undecided exhaust themselves with reaction. The decided act with deliberate peace. Certainty without strain is the mark of mastery. When a man's inner world is ordered, his outer world obeys without conflict. He speaks less, accomplishes more. His tone softens, his results sharpen. He has ceased fighting life. He now conducts it like a symphony already written in his mind. Wealth and opportunity recognize structure and stability. Money flows where direction is firm, just as water flows toward gravity. Those who appear favored by fortune are merely those who have provided it with channels. The indecisive dig and abandon, the decisive build and receive. Look to Rockefeller during the storms of finance. While markets panicked, he remained composed. His calm was not ignorance, it was alignment. He had built his empire upon law, not chance, and the law never panics. His patience in crisis attracted strength. His order absorbed disorder. Consider Abraham Lincoln facing a nation divided. His faith in unity did not waver when defeat seemed near. His belief and purpose were one. He did not adjust his conviction to please opinion. He held alignment until history itself bent toward him. Decision carried through chaos becomes destiny. I have known ordinary men who reached extraordinary positions through the same quiet certainty. A salesman once told me he had repeated his daily aim for years before wealth appeared. I told him the wealth did not appear, it was released. The law had been obeyed so long that its fruit had ripened into visibility. When alignment matures, others feel its presence. The man's silence carries weight. He no longer needs to assert himself, for results speak his language. His actions require no explanation because they are the natural continuation of his decision. People seek his company not for entertainment, but for stability. They sense that his presence reduces their confusion. His very composure becomes instruction. He leads without command, teaches without argument, and influences without effort. This is mastery, the point where thought and act have become one motion. The man does not strain for control because he is no longer divided. His direction is clear. Therefore, life becomes cooperative. Obedience has made him trustworthy. The law now entrusts him with greater responsibility. Power seeks reliability as water seeks the lowest point. It will not flow through the inconsistent. Only when the vessel is steady can force safely pass through it. He understands that success carries moral duty. To misuse authority is to disrupt the balance that created it. The man who gains wealth must remain aligned in purpose, or the same law that raised him will withdraw support. Power is loyal only to obedience. The visible mark of a decided mind is respect. Those around him, whether they approve or not, must acknowledge his certainty. Even his critics feel compelled to measure themselves against his standard. Respect cannot be demanded. It is drawn by alignment. Loyalty follows him because loyalty recognizes itself. Men of divided will may oppose him, but they cannot confuse him. His inner unity protects him from outer manipulation. The evidence of the law appears first as small order, clarity in thought, simplicity in habit, peace in effort. Later, it appears as great order, results multiplying, influence expanding, destiny solidifying. The seed and the fruit share the same law. Each stage of alignment reveals a higher octave of authority. The man who once had to repeat his aim to himself now speaks and sees it reflected in others. His commands reach further because they are not merely verbal, they are vibrational. His consistency radiates. He no longer needs constant affirmation, for he has replaced emotion with rhythm. Emotion rises and falls, rhythm endures. The man of rhythm becomes unstoppable because nothing external can break his continuity. I am aligned, I am decided, I am faithful to my cause. I am the law in action. What I repeat becomes inevitable. My success is the echo of my obedience. Each of these declarations represents not hope, but acknowledgement. They describe what already is when law is obeyed. Speak them not as wishes, but as confirmations of your inner order. Faith is harmony between thought and act. When belief directs action, and action reinforces belief, nothing opposes progress. Doubt cannot survive in an environment of congruence. Persistence is loyal repetition of purpose. Each day's obedience compounds the force of the last. Repetition builds inertia, and inertia becomes inevitability. Decision is inner finality that ends all negotiation. When the mind stops discussing alternatives, the subconscious begins to build. Success is obedience rewarded by time. Time cannot deny what the law has prepared. Time is the hand of the law moving through visible sequence. I have watched many men reach this summit of understanding, and every one of them described the same transformation. At first, they chased results. Later, they realized results were chasing them. The cause was internal alignment all along. When the law is fully obeyed, results cease to surprise. They feel natural, even overdue. The man no longer wonders if success will last, for he knows it will. Stability is the reward for consistency. Failure once felt personal. Now it feels impossible. Not because mistakes never occur, but because mistakes cannot overturn foundation. The aligned man learns and continues without losing rhythm. His vision grows clearer as life simplifies. He sees patterns others miss. He reads cause where others see chance. His decisions become prophecy fulfilled by time. This is authority, the power to remain calm under storm, to act without doubt, to persist without fatigue. It is not a gift. It is a state earned by obedience. This is inevitability, the sense that each step, however small, must succeed because it cannot do otherwise. The law, once awakened, does not rest until completion. This is mastery, the peace that comes when man and law are one motion, when nothing stands between thought and outcome. The man who once struggled now understands. His past confusion was not punishment, it was imbalance. His former effort failed because it was divided. Effort without law scattered power. Alignment restored command. Repetition ensured permanence. Certainty transformed effort into inevitability. He no longer seeks miracles, for he has become one. His life now testifies to the truth that order within produces order without. And so I say to you, there is no mystery left. There is only the work of alignment, the obedience of repetition, and the quiet confidence of final decision. If nothing worked before, it was because you served too many masters. When you serve one purpose wholly, all else will serve you. The law never fails those who refuse to betray it. Decide once, align completely, obey daily, and when you do, life itself will obey you.